Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi mahana kia koutou, and welcome everyone to this council meeting this day, the 7th of May 2026. Before we get underway, I would like to please invite Petera to come forward and lead us in our opening karakia, and then Councillor O'Keefe will lead us in waiata.
Kia ora tātou. E kui mai e koro mai te pōtahuri mai rā ki te āwhina i a mātou. Ho mai te mauri o a koutou mahi, mā mātou e kawe mo te wā poto. Ka whakahoki atu ai ki a koutou tūturu e rangi whakamaua ki a tīnā, haumi e hui e, tai ki e. Tēnā tātou.
Thank you, Councillor O'Keefe, and thank you, team, for participating. Okay, so just a reminder for anyone who may be new in the chamber, we are live streaming today's meeting so that our community can join us online, either live or watching back later. A reminder to elected members that if you do choose to speak, when you stand, please move devices away from the microphones so you can be heard. And for anyone who happens to be tuning in from home, online, or sitting in chamber with us today, you will see devices in front of elected members. They are not online shopping. They are accessing the council papers via these devices. Excellent, team. Well, first of all, I'm going to turn to apologies and requests for leave of absence. I note that we have no apologies or requests for leave of absence at this stage. Are there any ones that would like to be raised from the floor now? Councillor Jessup.
Yes, Your Honour, I am requesting leave for the next Wednesday, the 13th of May, and also from the 23rd of May to the 12th of June.
Thank you for those. Are there any other requests for leave of absence? No? In which case, can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Radcliffe. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Lorcan. So I will put that motion. All those in favour? Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Which now moves us on to reminding elected members about conflicts of interest. So as we move through the agenda, if you believe you have a conflict of interest on a particular agenda item, please raise it at the time so it can be noted and addressed. We will now move on to item 4, which is confirmation of minutes. Given the speed and volume of meetings we are dealing with at the moment, there are no minutes to confirm. Our team have not had a chance to pull those together yet, so we will move on. Moving now on to item 5, which is the Mayor's update. You will have all, I'm sure, seen the attachment within your papers, but before I open it up for any questions that may exist, because by golly, have we had a lot going on, I do want to make a few key highlights. Firstly, the announcements around McCain's and the reduction of the frozen foods line at Heinz Watties are significant for our region. And I say region because it is not just a Hastings issue. It is one that is felt throughout our region, but it also points to wider national conversations that need to take place. The impacts locally, though, are felt very much on the workers and their families, on growers, on suppliers, and all the local businesses that support those businesses. We are very mindful of that. At the same time, I really do want to emphasise to our community, and have done so a number of times, that Hastings is not starting in a weak position. These announcements hurt, but we have also had substantial growth in our business community as well. Over many years, there has been deliberate planning around industrial land within Hastings in particular, within food innovation, logistics, and commercial growth, and that work matters more than ever right now. Over recent weeks, I've also been working alongside Central Hawke's Bay's Mayor Will Foley, as you all know and have supported me. We've been working with growers, industry experts and representatives from many parts of the industry to ensure that Hawke's Bay is speaking with one clear voice when we are speaking nationally about the pressures that we need help with here. The decision by the Primary Production Select Committee, in terms of central government, to open a briefing into these closures is an incredibly important step in that process. That is success for our region and an opportunity, if we keep advocating, hopefully for our community to have a voice in that process, because I strongly believe they need to hear from us. And by community, I mean all of Hawke's Bay. Secondly, the other thing I've highlighted within my report is the weather events over the past few weeks. They've again reinforced how quickly they can change. Remember, forecasts are never an exact science. And while Cyclone Vaianu, fortunately, and I say fortunately because the forecasts were very different, tracked away from us, the decisions made at the time were based on the best possible information and a very credible risk to our communities. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge the work of our civil defence teams, staff, emergency services, community hubs, volunteers, and the residents who were impacted but mobilised and got themselves ready. We are deeply appreciative. That support and preparedness shows that we have learnt many lessons since Cyclone Gabrielle, and it was incredibly heartening to see. Last month also included Hastings hearings for the Cyclone Gabrielle coronial inquiry. For many people, including those in this room, that process has brought back difficult memories, and my thoughts remain firmly with the families who lost loved ones. I also acknowledge our staff who participated in that process and were noted by the coroner as participating in an incredibly professional and helpful manner. The inquiry is an important opportunity for us all to keep learning as a country and improving our emergency management systems and preparedness. There are also some very positive milestones for this region this month and the month that we have been through. The opening of Omakura, the Hawke's Bay Museum and Archive and Storage Facility, was another significant moment for Hawke's Bay. And again, I say Hawke's Bay because it is an example of strong regional collaboration to protect and care for our shared tonga archives and pass those on to future generations from our ancestors. And at that opening, it was noted that this is a gift from our ancestors to future generations. And finally, Councillor O'Keefe will join me in this, I'm sure, it is Flaxmere's time. It was wonderful to see Council endorse the Flaxmere Town Centre Master Plan, a project that's been talked about for decades. This work has been going on for a very long time, and I acknowledge TW who are funding the Town Centre. It is great to partner. Our role is one of infrastructure and enabling. It is great to see that investment happening in our communities. It will lead to a safer, better connected and revitalised village centre for the Flaxmere community. There's a lot of pressure on our communities right now, but there is also a great deal of positive work happening across our region. And I think that's the thing that we need to keep focusing on. It's what are we doing to make this place better? And I see lots of activity. So thank you all for your role in this also. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Yep. Your Worship, would you like to make any updates on the sector discussions with the growers that have happened perhaps since your update, please?
Thank you. Yes, since this update was written, we have now held a food production forum meeting with a range of industry representatives and a range of growers as well. We will be reporting back in due course with those representatives, but I think it's no secret that the common themes that came through are ones that our community are already talking about. energy resilience and security, water security, also regulation and talent attraction. I found it particularly interesting at one point to hear from that community themselves in the midst of what is a very challenging time for them, talking about how we need to make sure that Hawke's Bay is a place that people want to live, because we don't keep people here if we don't have interesting things for them to do and nice places for them to be. It was really interesting that that came up in that forum, and is a lesson we can take away here and something we can do. Another thing that I heard loud and clear too, because the solutions will be at a national but also local level, and we will play our part. And one of the things I heard loudly and clearly too was, how can we make that regulatory side even better? What other goals that we can have as a council to support business in that way? And that's certainly something we're taking away. Incredibly positive forum, the first of many discussions, and a very clear step towards that speaking with a regional voice, which we must do. We cannot be divided when trying to advocate not just for our region, but for change that will ensure food production and processing is something that can be a viable part of our economy in New Zealand going forward. What we are feeling here is being felt in other places too. Any other questions? Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Worship. Basically the same question, but with regards to the affected workers, their whānau, and the unions that represent them.
Thank you, Councillor Ratcliffe. The updates that I can give at the moment are that a great deal of redeployment has happened, particularly within Watties, which is really positive. McCain's is a different story, obviously, with the plant closure. What I can share at this point is we know that McCain's are being proactive and being a good employer in terms of helping connect people. I can't talk about the specifics in a public meeting right now, but that will come in due course. What we are satisfied with is that there is a clear mobilised plan there, and requests for help have been put out where they're needed.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Lorcan.
Yes, through you, Your Worship. Just an update to your update on the Amokura
Yes.
opening. The day that the public opening happened on Friday the 1st was also the day that it was awarded 2 regional architecture awards. So it would be great for people to know that.
Thank you, Councillor Lorcan, you are correct, and thank you for emceeing that particular event. I heard you were outstanding. And a huge congratulations, I am going to note publicly now, in particular to Mr Allen, who will now start squirming at the front of the room, who was a driving force behind this project. We as politicians often get the glory for the amazing projects that are produced by this organisation, but actually we are well enabled, supported, and a lot of the doing work is, well, all of the doing work is done by our staff. So huge acknowledgement to him and the team that have supported him as well. Oh, you didn't squirm as much as I thought you would, Mr Allen. I'll come now to Councillor O'Keefe.
Morena Koromatua. I haven't been through the centre yet. Are we going to arrange a tour for the council laws at some stage?
Absolutely. I'm sorry, were you not there at the opening? I think they took some people through, or were you not able to stay?
I was there in the morning.
Okay.
Early morning.
Yes, we are absolutely facilitating that, and as I understand it, there is a process underway to try and allow the community to come through too. We need to bear in mind that the storage facility is not a museum. It is the storage and archives facility, is the protection place. However, it does have facilities built in there for research and education purposes, and I think it's an absolutely fantastic idea, Councillor O'Keefe, that we go through. And I have had requests from other organisations too, like Grey Power and the Landmarks Trust, who are interested in coming through too. So we will be enabling those. Are there any other questions? No, in which case, do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Seconder, thank you, Deputy Mayor Fowler. We have recommendations on page 9. All those in favour? Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, team, we will now move on to item 6, the Hawke's Bay District Plan National Environmental Standard for Detached Minor Residential Units. My goodness, that's a mouthful. Also known as enabling granny flats. So, team, if you'd like to come forward. We'll just fix a broken microphone in one moment.
Thank you, everyone. I'll take the report as read, but just to summarise, this report brings you the recommendation from the Strategy and Policy Committee, of which I presented a longer report. This recommendation is to add a note to the district plan to provide a simple solution to the conflict introduced by the National Environmental Standard on Granny Flats. This note clarifies that the NES prevails where all its requirements are met, providing certainty for users. Happy to take any questions.
And before I come to the floor, I wonder whether or not the Chair of Strategy and Policy would like to add anything. You don't have to, I am putting you on the spot, Councillor.
Thank you, Worship. No, I just think the information presented at Strategy and Policy was amazing, and I'd be happy to move if you'd take them over. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Teo Skipworth. Just a reminder for process for those of you who are new too, it may seem like deja vu all over again because we're all members of Strategy and Policy. However, this is where, I guess, a play where we delegate authority to certain committees and to a certain level, and this one requires it to come to full council. Are there any other questions, or can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Lorcan as the seconder. So if there are no questions or comments, excellent. I think we well traversed this at the last meeting, so in which case I will put the motion on page 16. All those in favour? Any against? Thank you, that's carried. All right, team, and thank you, team. We will now move on to item 7, which is the Council Local Area Plans Implementation Plan. Welcome forward, Paige and Raoul.
Through you, Your Worship, I'll take the report as read, but just wanted to provide a brief overview of the Local Area Plans program. So the background of the Local Area Plan program came through various strategy developments and reviews, starting with Heretatonga Plains Urban Development Strategy, which is now replaced by the Napier Hastings Future Development Strategy. And through the various iterations, a recommendation was to create these spatial plans for neighbourhoods. This diagram here just details how council's growth strategies interrelate with the local area plans program and the plans themselves and the operative district plan. So they're all kind of feeding down to each other and influencing back up as well. On screen, you'll see the identified endorsed local area plans for Hastings Central. There are 4 areas there. These were created or identified using a 400-metre walkable catchment, and the intention of these is to identify it as areas where neighbourhoods can support more intensive environments, so catering for greater amenities, so your parks, shops, doctors, those sorts of things, and having the right infrastructure in place to support that going forward. I'll note that also within the implementation plan, it details that local area plans will be developed for Flaxmere and Havelock North as well. On screen, and as you've got in your reports, the implementation plan spans across 4 key phases. Program foundations, which is more the strategic development and direction work, so the strategies that will inform the local area plans. The piloting of local plan areas, implementation and scaling, and full rollout and embedding. A lot of phases 3 and 4 will come through support with the development sector. Up front, a lot of the grant comes from council and that strategy work, but we will be relying on the development sector to help support these rollout. We can't do it alone, and it will come down to timing and availability for when these programs roll out fully. So happy to take any questions.
Excellent, team. So again, just refocusing us, the whole idea of the local area plans is to avoid unplanned or ad hoc residential intensification, and remove the risk of inefficient infrastructure. These are goals that I've certainly heard echoed around this table, even with this new council. So, any questions? Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Yep. Thank you, and through your worship, can you please explain, we're dividing into the 4 LAP areas, and it's a bit of a loaded question because wearing another hat, you know I did background on this. Can you explain the advantages of dividing them up into areas based on their uniqueness so we can deal with them rather than a whole, the uniqueness of each LAP, please?
Excellent question.
Through you, Your Worship. So the local area plans were divided up based on the neighbourhood characteristics. So that includes kind of the history, the general characteristics of the dwellings themselves within the area, and the community and demographic makeup, so that the neighbourhood environment can be enhanced through those local area plans. So providing the appropriate types of amenity to support that community, and ensuring that the building types inform infrastructure, all of that relates back to what those community needs are specific to that area.
Councillor Milman.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I note that this is a living document, so just wondering what governance controls are in place to ensure that it continues along the intent.
Through you, Your Worship. So regular updates will be brought back to Strategy and Policy Committee, and that's where, as the work program advances, aspects like funding and different work program aspects will be brought back to council for endorsement so that we can progress appropriately, including LTP and annual plan decision making as well.
Thank you. Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, noting that Hawke's Bay has some of the highest levels of disability and an ever-ageing population, and that 80% of the houses that are accessible to 80% of the population have already been built. I couldn't find anything in the LAP that notes the urgent need for accessible housing in these neighbourhoods. Can you speak to that, please? Did I just miss something?
Through you, Your Worship. So in terms of the Phase 1 program foundations, a lot of that work, the demographic work has been undertaken already, but the next phase will be through the strategic development, so development of design guides, frameworks to support what types of intensification happens. So that's where we can kind of direct the development sector into that universal design space to incorporate that in their developments going forward, and thinking about, from a master planning perspective, what types of infrastructure and amenities needed to enable those communities to get around their neighbourhood appropriately.
A question from me before I go any further. In order to set expectations around this table, can you speak at all, and I may be putting you on the spot, to the regulatory constraints in which we operate in terms of not being able to impose anything more stringent than acts?
Yeah, so through you, Your Worship, good question. So we are defined by, I might lean on Raoul actually to address this question.
Through you, Your Worship, yes. I think, as Paige is saying, good question. I think in the context, obviously we are working in a regulatory space that's defined at this point in time. The LAP program will take an aspirational view in terms of how we move forward. So if there's opportunities or considerations that emerge to perhaps look at changing our direction or our approach and what's required, I think those thoughts and considerations will be brought back to this table for consideration, as we would do for anything else.
And that's not in any way to imply that I don't support the direction that Councillor Ratcliffe has tried to set. I just want to make sure our expectations are clear around what we can impose and unfortunately what we can't. We can certainly set aspirational goals though. So I'll come now to Councillor Montepero Hendry. Oh, sorry, Councillor Ratcliffe, did you have a follow-up?
Sorry, yes, please. Thank you, Your Worship. Acknowledging everything that's just been said, is there an opportunity to add a recommendation here that Council at least notes the urgent need for accessible homes in Hastings?
Thank you, Councillor Ratcliffe. I think I'll first of all come back and ask a question of you, and then we can put that to the table. Would you be comfortable with us instead instructing officers to find the validating information that would support that first? I would fear that if we put that as a recommendation right now without clear support of that, that would not meet our requirements under the Local Government Act. Would that satisfy you at this stage?
Yes, I'd be delighted if we can have that as an action. Thank you, Your Worship.
So I'd like to note that as an action. I think I see nodding heads around the table that would support that, so we'll have that information brought back to us. Thank you, Councillor Ratcliffe. You highlight a very important area of work. Councillor Montepero Hendry.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. I just wanted to double check in the recommendations before we get to that, please. B and C, just that we're endorsing the LAPP, just making sure that C covers B and that we're endorsing the plan. We're not committing anything financially pre the LTP coming to us.
I will just come to Mr Cameron to clarify his view on the recommendations and whether or not it addresses your concern.
Through Madam Chair, having listened to the officers and been involved in the review process for the development of this report, I think the report states quite clearly that funding decisions will be a subject of future council decisions through the annual plan and LTP processes that Paige identified before.
Are you satisfied with that, Councillor?
Perfect, thank you. I just didn't want any misinterpretation. Thank you.
No, I agree, and it's worth probing those things to make sure. Thank you. I'll come now to Councillor Nixon.
Oh, thank you, Worship. I'm looking at 1.7 on the agenda and the talk of a 30-year time frame. Mm-hmm. What are the triggers that might result in some sort of reassessment during that period? You know, population growth, all those things. Is that built into the plan? Because I can't remember reading of that.
Yeah. So through you, Your Worship. So the local area plan program takes direction from the future development strategy. So that's where they set the growth targets and expectations. There's the 3-yearly review of the population growth and economic profile for Hastings and Napier. And so that's where we can look to relook at the local area plan in accordance with what's happening on the ground in terms of demand and need. So shaping intensification that way.
Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Your Worship. My query just regards the hospital block, the actual boundary lines of that. When I look at the hospital block as outlined in orange, which contains 2 schools, a large cemetery, an expanding hospital, commercial industry, light commercial in that zone, and in the urban areas of Frimley Ickenery Road, a new development where houses are on small sections. It really only, in my view, leaves Camberley as the one area that could be developed in terms of intensive residential. And I'm just wondering why we included all those other areas that could not possibly be residential in that zoning.
Through you, Your Worship. So through the local area plan implementation plan, master planning of the areas will take place. So that will identify what areas are suitable for residential, may relook at the industrial zones that are already there and commercial offerings. So it may take a broader perspective in terms of what is actually needed in that area and look to reshape and redefine what that looks like from the status quo we see today. Hopefully that addresses your query.
I see Councillor Watkins pondering. Do you have a follow-up at all? Okay. Well, Mr Oosterkamp.
Through you, Your Worship, and just sort of adding to Paige's comments, I think the other thing too is, and taking your comments, Councillor Watkins, the hospital LAP area and the features that you've described are also part of the reasons why that's a good LAP area, because those areas contribute to, I guess, leveraging the opportunity that is medium density in terms of all those features. So it's as Paige is saying, it's a master planning exercise. The areas have been identified, but again, I think it's not an absolute. So I think the boundaries are there, but the boundaries will bleed and contract a little bit as well. So, but I think it was just important to emphasise that the components that you're talking about, hospital, commerce, there's some there's some shops there, et cetera, all contribute to the opportunity that is medium density as an offering there.
I will let Councillor Watkins continue to ponder, and I'll come to Councillor Ross.
Through your worship, just interested in, there's a lot of concerns around intensification. How will the community feedback be placed through each stage, and how do we capture that?
Thank you, Councillor Ross.
Well, through you, Your Worship. So community engagement was undertaken through the identification of the local area plans themselves, and then we're actually underway for community engagement at the moment, doing community interviews to understand why the community feel that way about what they identified initially around intensification in those local area plans. And then as we advance through the master planning and roll out of the implementation plan, community will be engaged again, and that will be brought back to council to help shape what those local area plans look like going forward.
Are there any other questions? In which case, team, I'm very happy to move from the chair on this one. This is a body of work I'm very passionate about. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ratcliffe. In which case, team, we have recommendations on page 18. All those in favour? Any against? Thank you, that's carried. All right, we'll now move on to item 8, which Paige is still in the hot seat for. So this is our Hawke's Bay housing strategy.
Well, through you, Your Worship, I'll take the report as read and note that we did have a workshop on this last Thursday, just to talk through the details of that Housing Leadership Group work activity and the strategy itself. I will just preface that the Regional Housing Strategy is a high-level document and meant to be enabling and able to change over time as community needs shift. The detail and technical aspects will come from the action plan and the development of that. Our intention is to have a working group alongside the development sector, those actively involved within community groups, to help shape what that action plan needs to look like, including the likes of councils and central government and partners of the Housing Leadership Group as well, so that that's really clear on what that action plan is intended to achieve. I will note that there are opportunities for this strategy to grow and change over time. So if there are any feedback that you may have identified throughout the strategy document, there is a pathway to feed that back through to the Housing Leadership Group to make a note of that and see that reflected. So happy to take any questions.
Before I do open for questions, I wonder, for the benefit of our community who may be logging on and actually not have participated in the workshop, could you give a concise overview of why we have the housing strategy?
Through Your Worship, so the Regional Housing Strategy was developed to address the housing issues that we're seeing on the ground, ranging from homelessness through to affordability issues, quality of housing, and trying to create pathways for people to access home ownership, providing opportunities across a full housing continuum for people to go into those types of housing tenures that they see best fit for their need. It grows off the back of the Hastings place-based housing plan work back in 2019, which saw success through regional partnership and partnership with the Crown to identify pathways to address homelessness and housing issues in general. That worked really well from a partnership perspective, so that's where the Regional Housing Leadership Group has formed to take a similar approach to address housing for the broader region. Housing impacts everyone, so we need a collective effort to address those needs.
Thank you. Excellent, team. All right, in which case I open it for questions. Councillor Milmine.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I think this sounds like a really great starting point. Pleased to hear that looking forward to seeing the action plan, and pleased to hear that any funding decisions will be coming back through this, that there's not, any false kind of hope that is going to come that way. My concern, or not so much a concern, my question is, how will seniors be represented on this group. I note the members of the current leadership group are not senior specific organisations. So if you just, yeah.
Thank you, councillor.
Through you, Worship. So in terms of addressing those community groups and having that representation in terms of seniors and other groups across our community, that's where the kind of more operational group in terms of advancing the action plan work program will come into play. So feeding into your contacts and contacts we have through within council itself to get the right people involved in that work so that it's clear and encompassing all those within our community.
Councillor Milman?
Can I say something? Thank you. I would just like to have an action taken, if possible, to make sure that we do include the senior representation. I think it's very important. It's talked about a number of times through the strategy, which was very good, you know, was really refreshing. But as we know, that population is growing, and there is a lot of information and great skill and expertise out there that I would like to see factored into this action plan if we are able to do that, please.
And before I note it as an action, I just want to check in with the team. Is that the most appropriate mechanism, or is there a report back function that you were planning to come through council committees anyway, where that could be brought through?
Through your worship, so through regular updates, we were planning to come through strategy and policy committee. So, and the next iteration of the regional housing strategy can come back through there, acknowledging any feedback received today to incorporate in that.
Okay, so in terms of the action, if you're comfortable with it, Councillor Milman, as I suspect there may be others that come up with it for our democratic support team, if we can just start making a little list of specific information that the councillors would like brought back to them in that reporting, that would be helpful, I'm sure, for the team too. Thank you, Councillor Milman. I'll come now to Councillor Teo Skipworth.
Thank you, Worship. Aisha, seeking clarification on 3.0 or 3.1. 1,083 applicants on the public housing register. In 2 bullet points down, it says Hawke's Bay has experienced severe housing deprivation, circa 5,200. Are they included in the 1,083 numbers, or is that an addition?
Your worship, so that is an addition. So the 1,083 applicants on the public housing register is who Ministry of Social Development has identified through their pathway in terms of people wanting to go into a social home. The 5,200 are people that have been identified through community mechanisms, so our night shelters, homeless shelters, those sorts of avenues, who are experiencing that sort of.
So an addition.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Supplementary, Your Worship.
Yes.
Following on from that clarity, and Councillor Milman's request, we have a huge rangatahi homeless problem as well. Could that be included in the actions that were asked of Councillor Milman, that we have a rangatahi work stream as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So I will come now to Councillor Daniel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Paige and Raoul, for our kōrero. It enlightened me a bit. So this question actually comes from somebody in the community who participated in our workshop. So the question was, would the regional housing strategy pattern itself to respond to diverse housing needs across the homelessness spectrum, including models such as boarding style accommodation for individuals who may not be ready for independent living? Will this be reliant on the action plan to address this gap?
Councillor?
Through Your Worship. So yes, the action plan will cover that off. The strategy itself takes a more holistic view in capturing homelessness, and then that detail in terms of action will come through in that action plan.
And again, I'll just remind elected members that action plan is going to be brought back to us. I think it's really valuable, the areas that everyone is noting, but it will come back to us. Councillor Teo Skipworth, did you have another? Oh, thank you. Councillor Lorcan.
Yes, through you, Chair, just to tautoko what Councillor Milman said, I'd like to see when the strategy talks of diverse housing, where is the breakdown of the elderly and disability? I'd like to see that. Also looking at 4.9, and this may come through when the report comes back. I'm just curious, what will the action plan that's being developed by the Housing Leadership Group cost HDC in the long run? Do we have that breakdown? I'm curious, if anything.
Through your worship, we can take that as an action to clarify what sorts of costs would be appropriate to include for that development of the action plan.
Thank you.
Through you, Your Worship, and just adding to Paige's comments here, I think from an officer perspective, there's obviously officer time that's going into it, so we can account for that. Actions over and above, as Paige is saying, we can give consideration to that. If there's any significant capital LTP annual plan considerations, I'll come back to council.
Thank you, Mr. Oostkamp. I think that is the key takeaway, team, is just because we endorse the strategy does not mean we're immediately signing up for any costs associated with the action plan. But we do need to be working collaboratively with our regional partners to address this issue. And I think it's really great, actually, that so many elected members have highlighted so many different parts of the community that are touched by this issue, because let's be fair, it is our entire community that is touched by this, which is why we are approaching it so proactively.
Perhaps if I can, through you, Worship, just to give an applied example in terms of taking things down from strategy into action and what this might look like for council. So if we use the 2019 Hastings Place-based plan, at the time, some of the critical objectives in the strategy were to get people out of living in motels, big focus on building transitional social homes, which was our partnership with government. But one of the issues at the time was the housing issues that were related to 5,000 to 6,000 RSE workers being in the region for 7 months of the year. So one of the actions that came back to council, and council agreed, was to explore a district plan change that enabled RSE accommodation to be built in industrial zones and on orchards. And that was a decision, again, a little bit of cost, a lot of officer time in terms of district plan, but enabled about 1,500 purpose-built RSE beds to be built. So that's the type of, once we've got the vision and the strategic objectives sorted, dropping down into the actions, noting all of the very good points that have been raised is what we'll bring back to council to work through.
Thank you, Chief Executive. I'll come now to Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Acknowledging that the action plan is going to come to us in the future, speaking to my community about the concerns that if elements are not embedded at this very earlier stage of the planning process and the strategizing process, if they're not embedded at this early stage, that they won't be carried through to the action plan. And comparing Hawke's Bay's strategy to Tairawhiti's, which has comparable demographics and issues, I'm concerned that at this stage, the urgency of addressing the housing crisis isn't addressed, nor the scale, nor the inadequacy of the existing housing stock. And crucially, I'd say that Te Tairawhiti acknowledges, alongside their foundational values in their document, acknowledging that their document is a complete document with an action plan already attached, but design principles are also included at this very highest level. And I'm not just talking about universal design and accessibility here, but also environmental footprints, waste minimisation, greenhouse gas emissions, carbon neutral homes, climate change, natural hazards, homes that are thermally comfortable, warm in winter, cool in summer, watertight, and universally accessible. So can you provide us with some reassurance, please, that all of that is going to be included in the final document via the action plan?
Through you, Your Worship, definitely. So we can take that as an action as part of that list and look to feed that back to the Housing Leadership Group and look to address some of those concerns in the strategy itself before it's finalised, and then the more detailed stuff through that action plan.
Would it be helpful if I emailed that list through to
I think you
services so that they can add it to Alicia's list?
I suspect Democratic support would gratefully receive that list. Thank you, Councillor. And I think actually from my perspective too, team, and again looping back to the earlier conversation, it would be really great to understand as that strategy evolves, as that action plan evolves, where the levers are that we can pull and where we can be aspirational, just so that we're really clear, because I agree with much of what Councillor Ratcliffe said, but I also want to make sure we're setting very realistic expectations with our community on what we can and can't do. That said, aim high. All right, I will come now to Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Paige, for the workshop and the report, the continuum, and also the definition of the different types of housing. I'd like to make a comment on homelessness and then a question.
Please.
Successful housing of the homeless isn't a transactional operation. It actually requires preparation and stabilisation of the homeless. They need to be well prepared, they need to be supported, and they need to be supported once they get into the house to keep living there. So my question is, the action plans, will they be including that preparation and resourcing the preparation to transition homeless, particularly chronically homeless, into housing?
Through you, Your Worship, definitely. So that's through working in partnership. We can get those on the ground who can provide that more wraparound support involved in the delivery of that action plan, so that they're able to help transition those facing homelessness into more secure housing and able to stay within there and supported to do that.
I'll come now to Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I'm a bit of a numbers person. I like the statistics, and I'm particularly interested in 3.1 on the agenda, which gives us some I find very useful information that I can judge what's actually going on. But the question I have is, although we get updates, they don't in a way sort of tend to update the information there. You know, in other words, if I took, say, housing deprivation, 5,200 people, you know, I would like to know at some future point, how many of those have we provided better housing for? How many additions, how many just, those sort of figures?
Absolutely.
That's what I'd like to see, so I can actually judge progress, because I feel it's a little hard to judge progress. It's a great report, but I just, and I'm looking ahead, not to this report, but to any updates to see if we can't better understand the effect of what we're doing.
Quite reasonable, Councillor, and when we look at our previous work within the housing continuum, we've always had quite successful updates of data, and you're right, it would be good to have assurance that we will get updates from this as well. Team, if you'd like to speak to that.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. So through the action plan, data and reporting will be a key component of that. So utilising partnership to access broader information in terms of homelessness and across that housing continuum, to understand what the shift is, how people are shifting across that continuum, so that we can provide that more detailed update to you in the future through strategy and policy committee going forward.
Can I just ask a supplementary question? It's really the same question, but just trying to dig a bit deeper. I'm really asking that these numbers, you know, the actual number of people, do we have some sort of monitoring thing, or is it rather more of a blanket overview?
Rao?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, and good question, Councillor Nixon. So under the NPSUD, we do, and we're required to monitor housing activity. So we produce a housing snapshot across Napier and Hastings that's done on a quarterly basis. The next one is due like literally within the next week. And that's normally circulated to a range of stakeholders, including councillors, to access and review and just be aware of. So that traverses a whole range of metrics, from consenting information through to lots generated, et cetera, et cetera. It also talks about housing deprivation, affordability, and a few other metrics which will be of interest to you. So I think, as Paige has touched on, as part of this work, there's that body of work which is all useful metric information that will be provided back to this audience on a regular basis for you guys to stay informed.
I didn't quite ask the right question, actually. The one I was thinking of is the tracking I'm talking about, the tracking of cases. Is that done at all, or
I think we'll take that way as an action, and perhaps
Yep.
the team can look into
Happy
it and
with
come
that.
back to us, because I don't know if they'll have that data right now or information, councillor, but worthy to ask. I'll come now to Councillor O'Keefe.
Kia ora koutou matua, thank you for that. A comment was made recently by, you tell me if I'm out of order, by a minister who said if he had his way, pick him up in the van and move him out of there. And it's not that simple. What are you moving them to, Minister? That's what I have to say. Which brings me to my point. There's a homelessness of compassion and empathy and understanding. Homelessness is just not the people on the street. It's homelessness in here. And the ability to have resilience and to dig deep and to see it through, which brings me to my question. Transitional housing, I know it's only a stepping stone, but there's a great need for it out there. I'm pretty good at finding homes, but I've been struggling lately. So I'd like to see the plan dig down on that. And another question is, in recent times I've discovered there are some vacant homes on rural properties. Often I've had to go to the private sector. Have a think about that. You know, would they have the compassion, the inclination to open those homes up because they're empty? They're sitting there doing nothing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I think it sounds like you passionately endorse the strategy then, because it specifically talks about emergency and transitional housing. Thank you. And you are right. I think the strategy absolutely highlights the need across the entire continuum from that homelessness, which shows compassion from this community. Is there anything you'd like to add, team? Or no? Great. All right, we'll move now on to Councillor Montepero Hendry.
Thank you, through your worship. This strategy has some serious legs. It's pretty exciting. Just clarification, please. 5.1 bullet point 7, I know I'm getting into the minutiae, but the power of misinterpretation and people spinning things, I just wanted to get on the front foot of, do we have cool comms to get out there and say how fabulous this is, so that there is no misinterpretation or chance for anyone to get out there and say it wrong?
Through you, your worship, definitely. So we'll be working with our Marcoms team and those of our partner agencies to help support that discussion around what the regional housing strategy is and how it interrelates into the existing strategies that are already out there.
Awesome, thank you. And if we can support around the table through our comms, please let us know, because this is pretty powerful and awesome. Thank you.
Coming now to Councillor Daniel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for clarification for the members, if Paige could just explain to the members why Mangaharuru Tangitu Trust hasn't signed the strategic.
Through you, Your Worship. So in the Memorandum of Understanding document that was attached as part of the agenda today, that trust was not a signatory on there. That was primarily due to a timing issue, so they were planning to go to their board for endorsement of the strategy and the legal entity documents at the same time. However, the legal entity's work program hasn't advanced as quickly and is on pause, so that's why they haven't engaged. They will be taking that Memorandum of Understanding to their board in due course to sign on to the work program. They have been actively engaged in the work program of the Housing Leadership Group and development of the strategy.
Okay, team, if there are no further questions, I'm looking for a mover, please. Councillor Corbyn, thank you. I think that's highly appropriate with your interest in work in the homeless area. And seconder, Councillor Lorcan, thank you. In which case, team, we have recommendations on page 26. All those in favour? Any against? Thank you, that's carried. I'm excited to see this work ongoing, team, and we look forward to hearing back about it as it progresses to that action plan. Okay, team, we're now moving on to item 9, and I'd like to welcome Shane Ford, who will be taking us through dog registration fees for 2026-2027. Now, as Shane makes his way forward, councillors, I'd like to make you aware this is Shane's first time presenting to us in chamber, so we're going to be gentle with him.
Through you, Your Worship. Kia ora, councillors. As you'll see, this paper has actually been written by John Payne, who's unfortunately not able to be here today, so you have got Shane and I, as the Mayor said. So I will give a brief introduction to the paper, but before I do so, a number of you haven't met Shane before, so Shane will introduce himself.
My name's Shane Greville. I'm the current team leader for animal control, and as we sort of spoke about, I'm working as John Payne for about a month. I have a team of 7 that includes 6 animal control officers and 1 kennel attendant. We deal with all the animal control jobs, so not just dogs, stock, chickens, turkeys, roosters, whatever. Yeah. I think we deal with about 200, 220, 250 odd complaints a month.
Through you, Your Worship. Just as a brief introduction to this paper, as you'll see, this paper has the proposed dog registration fees and various other fees from the 1st of July onwards for this coming year. The purpose of this report is to seek adoption of those proposed fees, which are in line with the Dog Control Act. The proposed changes represents a modest 2.5% increase, which is in line with the Act as well. The penalty fees, as you see, are set at 50% from the 1st of August, and again, that's a provision of the Dog Control Act. The report also confirms that these fees align with Council's revenue and financing policy. There are no fees proposed for special purpose dogs, and again, that comes under the Dog Control Act. This report has been to the Rural Community Board, who are comfortable with the paper as well. So we'll take the paper as read, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, opening it up for questions. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Yep. Thank you, and through your worship, I note from a table for the benefit of those, I guess, at home as well, that our charges are in the middle of the table. We're not the most expensive, not the cheapest, but we are well within a range. I note too, and I'd like to, off the bat, focus on the recommendations is to receive and adopt the charges, not have a general discussion on other aspects of dog control. I'd like to make that point through your worship. I believe the 2.5% is reasonable, and I was going to ask a question in terms of, are you concerned about petrol prices and fuel prices going out? That's across the board. So in light of that 2.5% is certainly not a modest amount to be asking council for. So your worship, if you take a mover, I'll be happy to move off the bat. So.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, I will. And actually on that point, team, especially because there are new people around the table, if you do have broader questions around our dog control area not related to the recommendations, I'll invite you to just write them down and we will collect them at the end and we can have a workshop on that and invite the team to come in and talk. I do want to keep us focused today, particularly because we still have a number of papers to get through. We are looking at the recommendations, which is receiving the report and choosing whether or not we adopt the proposed fees. So that's where we're focused. I'll come now to Councillor Nixon.
Thanks, Your Worship. As I understand, there is a public good element in this operation. What percentage is that, and has it changed at all, say, since last year or even last term?
Through you, Your Worship, you're absolutely right. So there is a public good aspect to it. So the revenue that comes in is, there's some general rates revenue, which accounts for about a third of all the revenue that comes in.
Thank you.
Good question, Councillor Nixon. Coming now to Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question around the fact that we've, in the last 2 years, revenue will drop 5% and we're only raising it 2.5%. Are you concerned with that? I'm looking at the numbers that have dropped 5% of registrations, so I'm assuming revenue will drop accordingly.
Thank you, Councillor.
Through you, Your Worship, and Shane will correct me or add if I'm wrong, but you're absolutely right. Dog registrations have been going down the last few years, and that may well be because it's obviously more expensive to keep dogs and veterinary care, etc. So less people are actually owning dogs. We have not got numbers of dogs in the district. We obviously have numbers of registered dogs, but not unregistered dogs, so we cannot tell what percentage of dogs are actually registered. But in terms of your question, yes, dog registration fees coming in are going down, but what's going up is our income we're getting from infringements, and also income we're getting through the court processes that come to us.
I'll come now to Councillor Ross.
Thank you, through your worship. Just interested to know the proposed fee structure will align with the cost recovery going into the next financial year. I guess that's a follow-on to what everyone else asked. Also, I just want a quick thank you to Shane, because all the work you've done with the feedback that I've got through and the replies through your team has been absolute top-notch. So thank you for that. It's been
Thank
amazing.
you for noting that, Councillor Ross.
Like me, boy.
Through you, your worship. Yes, obviously it is a cost recovery part of council's business. So that includes, like I said, registration fees, income from infringements and court proceedings, and the general rates. So it's about 670,000 of general rates that come in for this particular service, and about 1.2 million of revenue from those other areas.
I'll come now to Councillor Teo Skipworth.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for the report. I'm just trying to understand. So, under recommendations, and it's got fee paid before the 1st of August, current fee, etc., proposed fee. Then in the next column, it's got fee paid after the 1st of August 2026, current fee. So are there two rates if you pay prior to the 1st of August, and then there's another rate if you pay after? And the reason I'm asking is so that we can ask our dogs to plan their pregnancies prior to the 1st of August, but really just seeking clarification. Are there two different fees depending on?
Yes, through you, your worship, there are two different fees. So from the 1st of August, the fee actually increases by 50%. So that's allowed for within the Dog Control Act, and that really is to encourage people to get their dogs registered in time, and that really has shown over in the past to encourage good compliance.
Okay. And if you just happen to be a person who saves dogs, but you get that dog on after the 1st of August, you're going to inherit the DIRA fee. I suppose I'm sort of trying to weigh up, it's a timing thing to whether you pay more or less on when you decide to have a dog.
Yes, through you, your worship, I'm sure there's mechanisms to enable people to have a discussion with the team about the fee.
Okay. And lastly, we in Paki Paki, we are a very voluntary dog control people. When the van comes in, we let everybody know.
I'm not quite sure how to respond to that, so instead I'm just going to come to Councillor Lorcan.
That cracks me up. Through you, your chair. Just could you please explain how the adoption fee works, what it entails, and how that rolls?
Through you, your worship. So that's a $300 cost. So with that, you get a registration. Your dog will be registered. You get the dog will be desexed. It's wormed, and there's a whole lot of other vet sort of checks that go with that.
Thank you.
And while that can seem like a very expensive cost as a one-off, it's certainly, if you have a dog yourself, you'll know the vet bill can be a lot higher than that when you've got to do that yourself. So I'll come now to Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you, Worship. Regarding the penalty for registering after the 1st of August, do we have an idea of how many people are missing that deadline and what notification is given to them in advance so that they are prompted to register beforehand?
Through you, your worship. So we have a dog, what we call a dog registration run. That generally starts about May, and we will use billboards. There's a letter that goes out to everyone that owns a dog, emails. There's a radio campaign. That sort of gets a little bit more, should I say, aggressive towards the end of it. Once we get, so your dog must be registered by the 1st of July, but there is a bit of a dead month, so we don't actually start our penalty fees until the 1st of August. So there is a dead month there as well for people to who are maybe lagging behind. So by the time the 1st of August comes around, there has been a lot of notice. Yeah, and generally people, I think maybe to answer that other part of your question, I think last year we had around 12,000 dogs, and 1,258 dogs were not re-registered. Of those, we found that about a third were still there, they just weren't registered. A third had moved on and a third had died.
Councillor Montepero Henry.
Thank you, through your worship. Just a quick one. Do you have a percentage of how many dogs you are capturing, impounding, before Heather gives us the heads up, that are registered or non-registered? Is there a... So when you capture the dogs, just so that I can go home and explain to the winemaker why they're more expensive, the ones that are not registered are captured as much as the ones that are registered?
So I'm going to allow this answer, but I am just going to say, team, I don't want us to delve too much down that rabbit hole. We can have a workshop around that, but if you can give a high-level answer.
Are you through, Your Worship? Majority of dogs that we pick up are unregistered. Majority of dogs that attack are unregistered. Majority of dogs that roam and we don't catch, we assume are unregistered. So, yeah, to answer your question, it is a very high percentage.
Thank you.
All right, team. I think we've put him through his paces. Thank you, Councillor Nixon, for moving. Can I have a seconder?
Happy to second.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Fowler moved, so we will take Councillor Nixon as a seconder. I apologise, Deputy Mayor. I forgot that I accepted you at the start. So in which case we have a mover and a seconder, and we have recommendations on page 34. I'm going to put those recommendations. All those in favour? Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. All right, team, moving now on to item 10. Thank you, Shane. You did very well. Moving now on to Ms. Stettner, who will take us through item 10, which is leave of absence and delegation to the Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The purpose of this report is for Council to formally delegate the power to grant a leave of absence to the Mayor. Last triennium, Council formally delegated this power to the Mayor, and so this report is proposing that that practice continue on. As you know, but for the benefit of the community, the usual process is that elected members seek a leave of absence from the Council during a duly constituted Council meeting. However, there are some times where the timing of a meeting may not coincide with perhaps an urgent need for a leave of absence to be sought. So, yeah, happy to take any questions.
So, team, just to make it very clear, this is not to replace the formal process of you requesting leave of absence within meetings. This is for those extraordinary situations where someone needs to urgently take leave, but there's not a meeting at which they can come and request that leave. It would give me the authority to grant it. However, that absence and that leave would still be formally reported back to Council and recorded in our attendance records, which are a part of our annual report. So full transparency, but just a mechanism that we failed to kind of close off at the start of the triennium. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Yep, makes perfect sense. Happy to move, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Ratcliffe.
Makes perfect sense. Happy to second.
Thank you. I'll come now to Councillor O'Keefe.
Makes perfect sense.
I like this theme.
Sorry. Just quickly, those stray dogs that inflection where they come from. Paki. Sorry, man. Sorry.
There are shots fired at this table. I might have to pull you two up on this. Yes, Councillor O'Keefe.
Point of order, Your Worship.
So how do we do that? Do we text you? Do we go through your PA or?
What I would recommend is anyone requesting an emergency leave of absence, which can't wait for the normal council meeting. If there's a council meeting coming up, put it through there as normal. Otherwise, please email me, because if I can't pick it up, Karen, my wonderful EA, will, and we will make sure it gets through to the appropriate people. Definitely more effective than texting me. If you saw the sheer number of calls and texts I get per day, you'd understand why I can't always respond. All right, team, if there's no further questions or comments, I will put those recommendations, which are on page 40. All those in favour? Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, we'll now move on to item 11, which again is Ms Stettner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This report recommends that Council adopt the terms of reference for the Hawke's Bay Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Joint Committee. These terms of reference are essentially owned by the Joint Committee and have been approved by it. They recommend that each partner council adopt them. The only reason why we seek each council member to adopt, as it is actually a legal requirement under Schedule 7 of the Local Government Act. The content of the terms of reference is a reflection of the Civil Defence Emergency Management Act 2002 requirements, and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
So team, this is one of these bizarre things where we're required to do this and there's not really much chance for input. I've got to be frank, because the legislation requires us to do this. So I will open it up to questions, but there's not really any room to move on this one. I'll come to Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Worship. Happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Councillor Montefiore-Hendry.
Thank you, through your worship. I just had one really quick question.
Yeah.
In the terms of reference, 11.2, that there was, for the avoidance of doubt, each and every obligation, etc., is under the liability of the group. 1.4, it says that every local authority must be a member. I just wanted clarification. Is that liability on the representative member only, or on the entire TA?
I'll come to Mr Cameron to answer that.
So, through Madam Chair, so it is a joint committee, but it's not a joint committee established specifically under Schedule 7 of the Local Government Act. It's actually required under the current Civil Defence Emergency Act. Council is required to have the Mayor as a member of that joint committee or a delegate for the Mayor. And either the Mayor or the delegate and their representation on the committee binds the council essentially through the exercise of their decision making. So, so I didn't pick up all of your second question. I think it was the imposition of liability back on the councils. Councils are also required under the civil defence legislation to be part of the group that's established to deliver the civil defence commitment. So I guess broadly in answer to your question, yes, council is bound.
Councillor Montefiore-Hendry.
Thank you. So by that, the Mayor would represent us, or the delegate would represent us, and it would be up to all of us to take our briefing, do what we're told, and uphold to the best of our ability the protection and safety of Heretaunga.
This is probably more my view represented in my answer rather than a legal opinion commissioned, but essentially yes. So if we take it a step up and if you go into the objectives and obligations of civil defence legislation, which has been a major part of my life for the last 6 months, I think the idea of the legislation is to compel local government for its responsibilities in that space, its requirement to be part of the joint committee, or the requirements on the joint committee under the civil defence legislation. So yes, that compels council to be part of that, and yes, it compels council to implement whatever the decisions of the joint committee are.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr Cameron. I'll come now to Councillor Milmine.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I think this may be a question for Craig again, sorry. So just item 21 with variations to the terms of reference. It notes in 21.2 that amendments to the terms of reference may only be made by unanimous agreement of all local authority members. So again, is that just the representative, or does that come back to all of us?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, that'll be all members of the joint committee, because you have delegated to the mayor or the mayor's delegate on the joint committee to make the decisions on behalf of the council. So it's their commitment as members of the joint committee.
Can I ask a supplementary, sorry? So would you intend on coming back to us for decision making?
So, best endeavours without also holding up regional work. Unfortunately, the purpose of this, and this is one of those bizarre situations, team, this is not me personally asking for this authority. This is a requirement under the way that the system is set up. And the requirement is we have a representative who can act on behalf of our council in order to work in a regional way to keep our community safe. I would like to emphasise as well the recent announcements by central government in terms of reorganisation within regions across New Zealand. This is one of those areas that will be looked at as well. So I'd like to see us not get too dredged up in this, given lots is changing. It is a reasonable question, but it is also bizarrely a requirement under the legislation.
Thank you.
Okay, I will come now to Councillor Ross.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just want to confirm any material changes prior to the TOR effect on costs, and is there any additional costs?
Through you, Madam Chair, so the members of the joint committee are expected to share the administrative costs of the joint committee equally or proportionately. That doesn't usurp, so council will go through its normal annual plan LTP procedures or processes to determine how much you're going to invest in your emergency management service and capability. Within that process, council is expected under the service level agreement, which has been approved by the Joint Committee for Civil Defence Emergency Management across the councils, to be cognisant of your responsibilities as a member council. But council you still retain the full independent right to determine the budget that you're going to commit to emergency management. So the Joint Committee can't come back into council and give a direction of your level of investment. But the Joint Committee has adopted its service level agreement, and that communicates expectations on the member councils in your provision of service. So the Joint Committee doesn't compel the council's level of investment, but the members of the Joint Committee compel council to the decisions of the Joint Committee in respect of civil defence emergency management under their terms of reference.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. I'll come now to Councillor Lorcan.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Just wondering, it may be somewhere in the documents, but I'm just wondering, can we see the annual group work program and budget for this that was signed off last year? Is that information available?
What we can do is, that's not actually specifically part of this paper, but it's some information we can have brought back to council. Councillor Lorcan.
Thank you.
Okay, team. Right. I am very aware we have a number of more agenda items we've got to get through, so I'm going to pull the pin on questioning there. I'm going to ask for a mover, please. Oh, sorry, it's been moved. Has it been seconded? Remind me. Sorry? A seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Lorcan. In which case we have recommendations, which I believe are on page 42. All those in favour? Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, team, we're now moving on to item 12, which is request for information under the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy to take the report as read. Happy if you have any queries about those. Thank you.
Any questions, team? Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you, Your Worship. In these Lagoima requests, I see a number of people that I know, a number of people in my ward, and a number of issues that I'd like to be aware of, what the people are asking and what the response is. I'm just wondering where I can access what the request is and what the answer is.
So I'll come first of all, whether it's to Ms. Stettner or Mr. Cameron, just to ask if it's reasonable for elected members to be provided, Lagoima information.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your question. This was actually an action that we noted on the 25th of May council meeting, and unfortunately I haven't completely closed that off yet. We have had a previous practice where we have uploaded completed Lagoima responses, which includes the questions as well, so councillors can have a line of sight over that. We're looking to reinstate that process, but we've probably just got a few I's to dot and T's to cross in terms of we need to make sure that things like privacy, or there are going to be some things that is not going to be appropriate to be shared openly with the public or elected members, particularly when it relates to personal information that they are requesting from us.
So
it's in process, and we're working on it, and we should be not too far away from that process happening again, subject to us making sure we've got all that properly sorted.
Thank you, Ms. Stettner, and I'd like to acknowledge that at the moment your team is very under-resourced, so we appreciate the efforts you're making, and it's good to know that something's in the pipeline. Does that satisfy you, Councillor Corbyn? Does that satisfy you at this point?
It does, but what went through my mind is, could someone Lagoima and actually find all of the information that way, even if it was confidential, etc.?
Yeah, we won't enter into that today, but that's an interesting question. It might be a workshop on Lagoimas at some point, team. So I'll come now to Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Your Worship. First, I'm delighted to see that councillors are not wasting staff time Lagoimering themselves this month. That's delightful. And if I can just turn everyone's attention to Reese Hurley from the Taxpayers Union. Spending on consultancy firms run by Mana Whenua. Is it normal for Lagoima requests to focus on a single race of people? And if not, why are we allocating resources to indulging such requests?
Councillor, I might interject there. Under the Lagoima, the community's allowed to ask us what they like, so it's not for the staff, unfortunately, to filter, and it's not for them to decide where they are transparent or not. There's legal requirements around it, so I take your point in terms of noting that. However, the staff don't have discretion, so I'll answer that on their behalf.
Thank you, Your Worship.
All right, I'll move now to Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question around the adoption of AI in this space for us and any future plan.
I will come to staff, but I would say high degree of caution given privacy. But yes, any thoughts around AI to help with this?
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. AI is definitely an opportunity in a lot of areas of our work. To be honest, we haven't looked at how AI may be able to assist in this area. We do have to consider privacy in terms of there's certain information we can plug in, there's certain information we can't. But take your point that that's definitely something that we should be looking into as a potential way to assist in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stettner. I'm going to now come to Councillor Milmine, and then that will be our final question on this particular item. We need to keep moving, team. So, Councillor Milmine.
Thank you. I was just going to say that I was happy to move that if you're
Brilliant.
welcome for that.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Watkins. In which case, I'll put those recommendations, which are on page 43. All those in favour? Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Moving now on to item 13, which is the proposed amendments to the schedule of meetings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This just confirms that the Performance and Monitoring Committee meeting that was originally scheduled for yesterday will be taking place on the 20th of May, and it's good for the community to have a line of sight around changes we make with our meetings as well. We also put it on our website. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Yep, so Your Worship, since it's my committee, happy to move.
Thank you, ringmaster of that particular circus. Now coming to Councillor Teo Skipworth.
Thank you, Worship. And I'm happy to second, but also noting that meeting was scheduled for yesterday, which would have included a long day for council. Thank you.
Correct. It was moved, and for transparency, it was moved because we had 2 MPs in the region yesterday, and we made time to meet with them in their schedules, which is why that meeting was shuffled, and why yesterday, which was meant to be a full day of meetings, suddenly only became a half day. Thank you, team. All right, we have a mover and a seconder. That was you, Councillor Tara Skipworth, wasn't it? So all those in favour? Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, so we're now moving on to recommendation to exclude the public. I will come to Mr. Cameron to talk us through the reasons for excluding the public from items 17, 18, 19, 20 and 21.
Yes, thank you, and through you, Your Worship, yes, there's 5 agenda items recommended to be considered in committee today. The items 17, 19, 20 and 21 relate to potential commercial transactions at various stages, so it's recommended those matters are considered in committee, both to protect the business information of council and external organisations and potential negotiation positions of council. Item 18 relates to the protection of private information of individuals. So for those reasons, it's recommended the 5 items are considered in committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Are there any questions regarding moving into PX or comments? No, in which case can I please have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Ratcliffe, seconded by Councillor Teo Skipworth. I'll put those motions and recommendations. So all those in favour? Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. To our community, before we move into public excluded, thank you for taking the time to join us here today, and we look forward to connecting with you again in a future meeting.